It's been more than a year and a half since the rocky launch of Battlefield 2042, and in that time the game has undergone major changes in the pursuit of meeting fans' expectations for what was at one point a highly anticipated title. As we approach the end of Season 4 and the end of premium content for those who purchased the Ultimate Edition, I had wondered if the game had turned itself around since I originally reviewed it, and have given it another chance to grab my attention as a longtime Battlefield fan, and another shot to see if it was worth getting in 2023. Like many others, I was disappointed in the state of 2042 upon release, with so many core features missing like the scoreboard, stats page, destruction, and dedicated classes to name a few. Not to mention the almost endless number of bugs at launch, it was just not the Battlefield I was expecting. I played for a bit while they sorted things out, but ultimately it was too little too late and I moved on to other games. I kept up to date with the updates and played occasionally to keep an eye on DICE's work on the improvements, and while they were making steady progress, it wasn't until Season 4 that I feel like they've finally brought 2042 at least within grasp of earning its Battlefield title. Many features that players have asked for that should have been in since launch really, have now been added to the game, like the scoreboard, an in-depth stats page, and the in-game chat. Another point of contention with players at launch was the Specialist system, which has now been completely reworked to more closely resemble the class system of previous games, locking certain gadgets to certain classes to encourage a wider variety of Specialist usage. The Specialists, including their individual specialty weapons and traits, are still in the game, but are now class locked and have received many balance adjustments over 4 seasons. Each class also gives its respective specialist proficiency towards a different class of weapon. You may use any weapon in any class, but using the weapon your class is proficient in will give a small bonus as shown on screen now. They've also remodeled the specialists to make them grittier and more battle hardened, and have done away with the cringy end screen quips.
Don't be sad, this is just how it works out sometimes.
Another missing feature was the squad management. At launch there was zero squad management at all. If you didn't queue into the game with your squad together, there was no way of messing with the squads once in-game, leaving you to play with random players. As of writing, we are just coming to the end of Season 4 and squad management is still not in the game. However, DICE has been rolling out info about the upcoming changes in Season 5, and squad management appears to be one of their main focuses, finally giving players some control over who they are paired up with. At launch, 2042's maps were massive and wide open for the most part, with no real signs of conflict or military to be seen. This was true of the cover as well, leaving wide open corridors with no real flow to the gameplay, leaving you running around between the points more than anything. That combined with the pristine, clean-looking specialists, and there was practically no immersion to the game at all. There is also no story mode, making the maps seem even more hollow and disconnected from one another. DICE vowed to rework the maps, but admitted it would take some time. To date, all but one map has been re-released, with Discarded being the latest to be reworked, and Hourglass being the last remaining, which has been confirmed as coming with Season 5. These reworks have moved objectives, added military infrastructure and collateral damage items like blown up vehicles in strategic areas to provide cover and immersion. They have also made adjustments to the overall size and shape of the maps. Each season has brought a new map with it, each one adopting the new map design strategy to make it feel more like an active battlefield. The destruction is still massively lacking, being reduced to small cosmetic events that play no real role in the gameplay. You can blow holes in the walls of some buildings, but there is no leveling of buildings as you once could. Conquest still seems a bit like sporadic chaos and a fair amount of running between objectives with fire coming from all directions, but that is inherent to the mode to a degree. Breakthrough's player count has been reduced to 64, and with the reworks to the maps, this mode now gives intense firefights that flow well and are decently balanced. After the maps, it seems only fitting to say a few words about the servers and your ability to actually enjoy these maps. Not much has changed since launch in regards to how you queue into a game. You still choose which mode to play and then blindly jump into a game with no server browser at all. There are also no persistent servers, meaning the game will disband at the end, having you queue in blindly again, hoping to get a different map. They have added slight persistence to the servers, as some servers will have the team switch sides at the end of the round and start the game over. The chances of this happening are about 50-50, and I've only seen it in Breakthrough. They do tend to do a dedicated rotation each season for its respective map, and they have done the same when releasing reworked maps as well, but this typically only lasts for a couple of weeks. This leaves you with only single player and co-op to choose maps directly, or use the only server browser in the game, which is included with Portal, but more on that later. Next I will touch on the vehicles and weapons. All weapons have received some sort of balancing pass over the last year and a half, and DICE has expanded on 2042's limited weapon selection at launch, with a small helping of new weapons with each update. They have also started bringing some of the Portal weapons into the main game, bringing them back from the vault. This is something I'm very glad to see happen, as it was one of my suggestions back when the game first came out. They have also added several vehicles to the game over the seasons, and like the weapons, the vehicles have received several balancing passes as well. One disappointing thing to see is they have reduced the vehicles available within Breakthrough, removing the Nightbird, several attack choppers, and the jets from the mode altogether. While on the topic of vehicles and weapons, it seems only fitting to talk about the controls next. When I first reviewed the game, I mentioned that the controls just felt off, with what seemed like a very steep response curve on controllers. I found this most prevalent in the helicopters, making it difficult to hold the chopper steady for accurate aiming. At launch, the jet and chopper controls were paired with no way of tweaking each one individually. That has now been changed, giving helicopters their own slider, but it is still difficult to hold it steady and on target. I'm having a similar issue while using weapons on the ground as well. The first third of the stick feels like it makes very minute and slow adjustments. But once you reach the 2/3 mark on this stick, the sensitivity ramps up rapidly, making your weapon swing wildly in my experience. This is making it hard to dial in my settings, since setting them too low makes the first third way too slow for fine tuning, and setting them higher makes the last 2/3 of the stick too fast and easy to pull off target. A setting to enable a linear response curve would be a very welcome addition, or at the very least a way to adjust the curves to better suit individual player preferences. This is honestly my main gripe with the controls. I have been messing with them since launch, including various levels of aim assist, but I can't seem to really dial them in. I do have auto rotation completely off, and I have my controls super close to comfortable, but that response curve adjustment feels like it would be the icing on the cake to get them perfect. Hazard Zone and Portal take up the final category, and I will be completely honest, I have not given Hazard Zone another chance since launch. The slow-paced and boring mode has not received many changes over the last year and a half, and the last few times I've tried to load into a game, it would just matchmake forever without ever loading into one. This mode had some potential, but with no further development aside from the odd bug fixes, it seems DICE has all but forgotten about the mode in the same way they did Firestorm. Portal, on the other hand, does appear to be thriving to a degree, serving as the only server browser in the game. You will be able to find custom matches here from across several areas of Battlefield, with many of them offering full XP. You can also set up your own match and host it for others to join. Although it may not be perfect, this is sort of how Battlefield 4 was. We just don't get a browser for official games, and the custom games are often on their own within Portal. In conclusion, 2042 is in a much better place than it was at launch, with many of the issues finally ironed out. There isn't as much destruction as I would like, but there is just enough there to make it noticeable. With the reworks to the original maps and the new design philosophy implemented into the new maps, the game flows much better now, and it is much closer to what you would expect from a Battlefield title. The vehicles and weapons feel much better, and the control options are getting better, but they still feel a little off. DICE still has some room to improve, but with the impending release of Season 5, it appears they remain dedicated to making the game the best it can be. With Season 5, this marks the first season beyond what was promised with the Ultimate Edition. And with a name like New Dawn, we may still have a few more seasons to go before they inevitably start talking about the next Battlefield. To back that up, they also mentioned Beyond Season 5 in the latest dev update, giving hope for an extended life cycle. For the question of whether 2042 is worth playing in 2023, I would say it is definitely worth checking it out, especially if you can get it at a decent price or if you have Game Pass Ultimate, which includes EA Play where it is free. DICE has also announced an Elite Edition of 2042, which includes the game and unlocks all the first year content instantly for $100 Canadian. If you have the base game already, you can upgrade for $30. The upgrade isn't a bad deal if you want to catch up on items you missed within specific battle passes, but $100 for this game, even in its current state, is a bit much in my opinion. 2042 has come a long way since launch, and although it may be inching closer and closer to earning its Battlefield moniker, it still has some room to improve. So if you can get it cheap, or better yet free, I would definitely give it another shot, but I would steer clear of the Elite Edition. I believe they have overplayed their hand with that one. Have you made your way back to the game since launch? If so, let me know in the comments what you thought about the changes they have made. That's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, keep gaming.